What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Broadened Horizin. I am your host, Drake Riggs, bringing you episode 4. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in, you guys. Feels like it's been forever since episode 3, right? But we're back with some slight upgrades, some little visual improvements here and there. And this is the first episode that will also have an exclusively Japanese version of it. That version is audio only and can be heard on mymanews.com's SoundCloud, which will be inside the link below that I pinned in the comments and descriptions below. For episode 4, we've got one half of the RIZIN 25 co-main event, Kenta Takizawa, as he took the time to chat ahead of his bout with Hiromasa Ogikubo. Then we have the recently retired Deep Jewels atomweight champ, one of the staples of the atomweight division throughout her career. It's Tomo Maesawa. After Tomo, we caught up with one of the two men in RIZIN 25's inaugural featherweight title main event, Yutaka Saito. And lastly, but definitely not least, I was joined by the former RIZIN light heavyweight king turned UFC top contender, Mr. Jiri Prochazka. Thank you to all of them for joining us. It was a really fun lineup, as always, you guys. It really reminded me why I love this sport and doing this. So thank you to everyone who submitted all the questions, which we will always answer at the end of the show. And, whether you're watching or listening, Broadened Horizin can be found on mymanews.com, youtube.com/Drake Riggs, the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, and My MMA News' SoundCloud. And as I said off the top, you guys, we now have a Japanese version of the show exclusively. So enough intro, more show. Thank you as always, everyone. Let's get rolling. First up, we have the rising bantamweight contender, Kenta Takizawa. All right. So thanks so much for joining me, Kenta. Great to get to chat with you, man. Excited for the next fight coming up and everything. And, it's a fairly quick turnaround from RIZIN 24. So I'm curious, was it always your hope, once things got back up and running for you to fight as much as you could before 2021?
そうですね。できたら大晦日
My original plan in a perfect world, it would have been great if I could fight on New Year's Eve. But the offer I received was Ogikubo it was a for sure thing for November. If I were to wait for December, I didn't have a guarantee on my opponent. So for me, beating one of the top guys in the division, it's the fastest ticket for me to make it to the top. So if I knew for sure that I would be able to face one of the top guys in November, instead of waiting for a unclear opponent for December, my choice was very easy to take on Ogikubo in November.
Yeah, definitely. And if you can, get past him without any injuries or anything, would you still like to fight on the New Year's Eve card if possible?
大晦日やりたい気持ちはありますね。はい。
I do want to fight on the New Year's Eve event.
Yeah, of course. Always a big show. It was very fun to be a part of those and everything. And I'm curious, how did you deal with the time away from, the fighting and, when life kind of settled down a little bit with the pandemic and everything? Was it just kind of waiting around, or did you do anything special?
1ヶ月ぐらいはジム閉めて
So the gym was locked down for about a month. But so that time I was only able to lift some weights and do some running and stuff. But besides that month of the lockdown, I was able to train fairly well. So I was able to train very well under these circumstances.
Yeah. You just got to make the best of what you can with the crazy time. So that's good to hear. And, you went out and, performed very well against Kentaro, got the win, of course. So, were you satisfied with your performance out there? Did you do what you wanted to do against Kentaro? Got the win, so that's always good.
Kintaro 選手戦はやっぱり
For the Kentaro fight, I had an idea that, my opponent was going to be him for quite a long time. But it only got confirmed like 6 days before the event. So I had an idea, but I wasn't sure. And also he was a southpaw, so I didn't have too much time to get prepared for a southpaw. I only had like a little bit of training, just possibly hitting pads. So for that fight, I guess I was able to... No, so that fight I was able to... get over it, get through it with my experience, my limited experience against southpaws. But this fight, my opponent, he's an orthodox fighter, and I've got tons of experience and I've got tons of sparring time with orthodox fighters. So I've got tons of weapons, a lot of technique that I have ready for this fight. So I'm very excited myself to fight this fight.
Yeah, and I mean, just getting that opportunity to get some experience against the Southpaw and come out with the victory. I mean, what is that feeling like for you as a confidence booster and kind of knowing now that you can handle opponents who are a little bit different, even if it's just a stance thing, just that boosts the confidence, right? Being able to get a win over somebody like that for the first time.
いや、予想以上に、手こずったというか、僕はもっと早
So
い展
just
開を見せる
you talk
と最
about
初は思っ
just
てたんで、
performance.
想像
I'm
以上
not
に
too happy with my
相手がクレ
performance.
バーな戦
I
い方
thought I
をし
could
てきて、
finish the
もっ
fight a
と
lot
がむしゃらに
sooner.
来ると思ってたんで、
I wasn't anticipating my opponent to be
あ
that
まり
clever.
自
I thought
分
he was
と
just
し
going to
て
come
は
in and try to
そん
brawl.
なにいいパフォーマンスが出
So
せなかったかなと思
I
いま
wasn't
すね。まあ、その
anticipating
分
what he was trying to
その
do,
前にス
and
タミ
that
ナだ
led
けはすごい
to
やっ
my
てた
kind
ん
of
で、もっ
disappointing
と
performance.
ミット
But
の
I
3連決
knew
の
that
パフォーマンスを
I knew that I
上
worked
げ
on
て
my
るような気
endurance
はしてい
and
たんで、相
my
手
and
の
my
対策
striking,
だけを
my sharpness.
まあ、あんまりしなかっ
So
ただけ
I
で、
worked on that hard, and
練習
I'm
はして
very
たんで、まあ、そ
I'm very
この部
happy to be
分、
able to
スタミ
know
ナと
that I
か、
went
そう
through
い
all that
う
training
体
and I
のコ
was
ンディシ
able
ョン的
to
にはすごい良
go
かった
full
な
rounds
と。
with them. So in that terms, I was, I'm very happy and confident with my training.
Yeah, and I mean, it was, a competitive fight. You came out on top, of course, but it was the first split decision win of your career. So, in those waiting moments where, you're waiting for the judges to announce who the winner is and you hear his name, you hear your name, what was the feeling like for you while you're waiting and like, oh man, are they going to give it to him? But one of them thinks I won. Like, what was that feeling like for you as it was being announced?
いやー、ちょっとめちゃくちゃドキドキしましたね。
Yeah, I was very nervous.
Yeah, of course. It's always tricky when you let the judges take care of things. But yeah, it ended up being in your favor, so that's fantastic. And just it was also your Ryzen debut. So what was the overall experience like just getting to finally fight and on a big stage like Ryzen?
いやー、入場がすごくて、あとお客さんが、
Yeah, the
たくさん
walkout
会
was
場も広いん
was
で、
awesome, and
まあ、
it's
緊
a
張というより
much
はすごい
bigger
楽し
venue
かっ
than
た
I'm
なって
used
いう
to,
感じですね。
and there's a lot more people that I've been used to. So it was more fun than nervous. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, does that make you all the more excited for when we get back to normal times and you can get a very packed stadium rather than what we have to deal with right now?
いやー、最高ですね。声も出
Yeah,
してよくなった
that
のも
would
本
just
当
be
に、
amazing
わ
because
ーみ
right
たいな、
now the crowds are
倒したっていう
restricted from shouting and
その
cheering.
みんなの
So with
歓
all
声を
that,
聞きたい
if
んで。
that all comes back to normal, I can't wait to hear the crowd roar and experience that atmosphere.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's safe to say that you're one of those fighters who kind of thrives in those moments where the pressure is on you rather than, getting a little bit, maybe you don't like the pressure as much, but when all the eyes are on you, that's where you're at your best. Is that safe to say?
あ、そうかもしれないですね。はい。
I think you may be correct.
All right, awesome. And I mean, speaking of all eyes on you, I mean, the next fight, very big one against Hiro Masa, as we were kind of mentioning there. So, I mean, just how do you think you match up with Hiro Masa? Because, a very experienced opponent. A lot of people know him. Just what are your overall thoughts on him as an opponent? And, like, how excited are you to finally get to, take on somebody like this in a big spot, co-main event on a big Ryzen show?
いや、最高です。
That's just one word. Feels awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, better way to describe it, right? So, and I mean, what do you think a win does for you exactly? I mean, of course, that puts you right up there, very close to a title shot. We extend your winning streak, big name added to the resume. Do you think that it warrants a title shot next, or you think you have? What do you think it does for you exactly? A win over him?
あ、そうですね。自
So
分
I
が
think
例えばファンの人が、
win
やっぱり
over
強いストライカー選
Oyukubo,
手と見たいっ
it's
ていう
not more
声
about
が
myself,
多分
but
上が
it's
ると
more
思うん
about
で
the
すね。
fans, right? The
井口選
fans
手
are
も
probably going to want to see a
朝倉
good
海選手
striker
も
go against
そういうスト
Asakura. They
ス
want to
トラ
see
イ
a
カーの
good
選手なん
striker
で、
go against
ヤクザがど
Horiguchi.
こまで
So I
持っ
think
ていけるん
that's
だ
more
ろうみたい
important
な感じを思っ
that
てくれたら
I
いいなと思ってます。次の試合勝って。
make the fans want to see me against the top guys. So that's what I'm looking for in this fight.
Yeah, definitely a very interesting way to, think of it and everything. But do you feel like also with certain opponents, their performances, do they have to be ignored and only kind of look at them when they're at their best? Or is it important to look at, what happened recently? Like, for example, Hiro Masa's last fight with Kai, of course. Like, can you judge it based off of the most recent fight, or do you kind of have to look at him when he's, at his very best, which wasn't his last fight?
一番最初は、
I
直近の
first
試合
look
を
at
見
their
て、
most recent
で、2年ぐらい
performance.
前、
And then I
サッ
go
カーの
back
方
to
で、まあ、
about
1
1 or
年
2
前ぐらい
years
までですかね。
and that's it. I don't really dig in too deep. So as for Ogi Kubo, I've only seen his fights. I've only studied his fights from when he fought in RIZIN.
Of course, it makes sense. Just was curious about that because it's an interesting thing when, somebody like Kai goes out there and does what he did to Hiromas. It's like, can you really judge him off of that and everything? And I mean, just speaking of the champion, what are your overall thoughts on him? I mean, not to look too far ahead or past Hiromas or anything, but how exciting is that fight potentially for you with Kai, and just what are your overall thoughts on him as a champion right now?
やっぱり対グラップラーに対してす
So
ご
I
い
think
強
that
い負けると
Kai
ストライクスラ
Asakura,
イカーで
he's
ストライカー
he's
に
very good
対して
against grapplers. He
負け
knows
る可能性
how to
は
enforce his
正直
fight
ない
against grapplers,
強く
and
な
I
い
don't
選
see
手
him
です
losing to any grapplers. So the only type of person who can beat him is a better striker, and I do see Asakura losing against strikers. So, I think it's a very fun fight, and it'd be nice to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely a fun matchup on paper. So hopefully we get to see that someday. And, obviously it seems like the next fight for Kai defending his title will be that rematch with Horiguchi. You mentioned him earlier, of course, too. So, I mean, just from that fan perspective and, fire perspective, I'm curious, who do you think wins the rematch, and who would you rather face if you had the choice right now?
いやー、どっちが勝つだろうな。堀口選手
So
がど
that's
の
a
ぐら
that's a very
い
hard
復
one.
活してるのかがわかんない
It's
ん
very
です
hard
け
to
ど、
pick.
堀口
It
選
all
手が
depends on
勝つ可能
how
性
how much Horiguchi has recovered.
の方が高いかな
But
とは思います。
overall,
まあ
I
僕
do
がやる
see
とした
Horiguchi
ら、
winning this rematch.
まあ甲斐
And
選手の方がやりや
if
す
I
い
were to pick who to fight right
で
now,
す。
I think Asakura would be a better matchup for me than Horiguchi.
Yeah, I mean, both fun fights, no matter what. I think that's fair to say. So we'll see what happens between the two. Cannot wait for that one as well. I mean, just the bantamweight division is so fun to watch, and you're a reason for that, and so are those guys. Just good stuff at 135. And you're still very young in your career, Kenta, and 25 years old, 26 very soon. I'm curious, have you had being a part of the Japanese MMA scene, and there's so much history over in Japan. Do you have any specific inspirations or favorite fighters that you've had on this journey so far?
サノデキスっていう、ルイ・サノデキス選手。
So it's a fight in Pancrase against a fighter called Louis Sanodekis from Canada. He's a Canadian fighter. And the story behind it was that I was on a 4-fight winning streak, all winning by KOs. And I was on a roll, and I lost the fight right before Louis. So it's a fight that I couldn't lose. And I remember putting all my efforts into training and training really hard and putting everything to it. And that was what led up to the fight. So I'm fighting him, and I knew I broke my orbital bone in the first round. But I was able to fight through that. I fought all 3 rounds, and I was able to overcome my challenges. So that fight is something that I remember very much. Something that I very worked hard for. The fight was tough. Training was tough. Everything that led up to that fight was a tough situation. I was able to overcome that. So that is what stands out in my career so far.
Yeah, definitely a good story there, and crazy, overcoming the broken orbital. And, Louis still a very good fighter in his own right, another great fighter. So, I mean, definitely a good win there and a nice story. So, last thing I will leave you with here, Kenta, one more thing. I know your birthday is next week, so early happy birthday to you, sir. The big 26. I just turned 25 myself, about the same age group. But I'm curious, my man, do you have any birthday plans, or is it just kind of not going too crazy since the fight's coming up?
全く考えてないですね。いつも通り練習します。
I've got absolutely zero plans for my birthday. It's going to be another regular day at the office and at the gym.
Maybe save the party for after you get the win, right?
そうです。
Yes, you are correct.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's all I got for you, Kenta. Thanks so much, man. Arigatou gozaimashita, for taking the time to join me here. Cannot wait for the big fight. Look forward to it in the rest of your career, man. I think there's a bright future for you. I'm just excited for it. So, best of luck and early happy birthday again. Like I said, thank you so much.
ありがとうございます。
Next, it is the recently retired Deep Jewels Atomweight champion, Tomo Maesawa. Okay, Tomo, thank you so much for joining me. Great to get to talk to you after, the big win recently. So I want to congratulate you on a great career, great title defense. So I just got to put it simply to start things off, how are you doing? How are you feeling right now?
今、そうですね、勝って、
I've been
勝
thinking
ちた
about
いと思ってたので、
this last fight for a long time,
しています。
and
一安心して
right now
い
I'm
ま
just
す。
very
あと
relieved
は
that
今
it's
まで
over,
判定ばっか
and I
りだ
can
っ
put
たの
a
で、
period to what I've been
一
doing.
本で
And
勝てて、
one of the good things
自
about
分
the
の
fight was that I
強
have a
さっ
lot
ていう
of
のを証明
decision
し
wins,
ながら終われ
but
た
for
の
this
で、
one I was
惜し
able
ま
to
れて終わ
finish
れ
and
た
end
の
my
で、
career in a very good way and
良かったと思う。
prove my abilities
一
and
安心
strength.
してます。
And I was able to finish my career in a way where people still wanted to see more. So I think getting that finish for my last fight was a great thing, and right now I'm just very relieved.
Yeah, I mean, really a perfect way to, go out and everything. But at the same time, you're still relatively young. So I'm curious, like, why retire? What was the motivation here to, call this the last one? And I mean, you kind of second guess it a little bit when you go out on a win like that. You're like, oh, I was able to win. Maybe I should keep fighting.
はい。一個じゃないんですけど、
So Jake,
とりあえず私が
there's
リン
two
グに
things that I
上が
want
る
to
時
talk
の
to
気
you
持
about.
ちっていうの
One is
は
that
も
my
うこれで死んで
mentality,
もい
my
いなっ
mindset,
て
whenever I
思
fight,
えるぐ
I
ら
put
い
everything on the line, and I
勝
don't
て
really
てい
care
て、
if I die in the ring. That's
毎
my
回
mindset.
ベルト取る
It
までも
has
そう
been
だし、ベルト取った
every
後と
time
か
I
もそう
fight
だった
when
ん
I
です
get
け
in the
ど、
ring. I don't really care if I die. I'm going to put
ま
everything
ず
in there and
一つ
perform.
は結婚したこ
So that was
と
my
あ
mindset
と
as a
自分
fighter.
がコロナで
And
考える時間ができちゃって、
one of the other reasons, with that being said,
そ
I
の努力
recently
につ
got
いてす
married,
ごい考えるように
and
なって、
and due to this pandemic,
生きていたいな
I
と
had a
思ってし
lot
ま
of
ったん
I
ですよ
spent
ね。
a lot of
作
time
業して
thinking
死ん
about
でもいいと
life
思ってた
and
気持
thinking
ち
about
が
myself. And
格闘技ってちょっと
when you think about
怖いも
life,
のなんだなっていうふうに
I
思って
I
いた
got
の
really
が、
scared
それによ
of
っ
what
て
I'm
家
doing.
族に心配をかけて
And
しまうっていう怖さが出て
I
きて
came
し
to
まったんです。
realize that there are more
コ
important
ロ
things in
ナ
life
の
than
時に
fighting.
い
And
ろいろ考えて、
I all of a sudden got
うん
scared of
格闘技よりも
stepping
大事
in
な
the
も
ring.
のが自分にはあるなっていう
You know,
ふう
having
に
a family,
思
I
ってし
don't
まっ
want
た。
to
体
make
の
my
年
other
齢は
family
32
members
歳、
worry
まだ
about
若いの
me.
かも
I
しれ
don't
ない
want
ですけ
them
ど、
to be
気
worried
持ち
about
が
me
も
all
う
the
そうなっ
time,
てしまっ
concerned
た以上、
every
体
time I
の
fight.
ことはもう関
So
係なくって、やっ
once
ぱ気
that
持ち
mindset
で
kicked in, once I realized that
戦っていたの
there
で、
are more important
ちょっと
things
そう思って
in
しまっ
life
た以
than
上
fighting,
は、そこの
that
リングに
I
上が
I
る
can't afford to
自分には資格がなくな
I
っ
can't afford to
ている
even
の
put
かなっ
myself
ていうふう
out
に
there
考え
to
てしまっ
risk
たのが
that I
ま
might
ず
die.
大きな原
So
因なの
once
か
that
なというふう
mindset
に
kicked
思
in,
ってます。
I feel like
はい。
I can never become the fighter that I used to be. I have definitely set my priorities straight, and fighting has no longer become number one. So I feel like mentally I don't deserve to be a fighter anymore. I don't deserve to step in the ring. So that's where it all came from. So basically the whole pandemic gave me a lot of time to think about life, and I just came to realization that there's more important things.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing reason, and nobody can knock you for feeling those ways, and that being the reason to retire. And I mean, you've had a great career, anyways. Fought pretty much everybody, been a mainstay in the atomweight division, very important part of the atomweight division's history and everything. So, yeah, just props to you and big congratulations on not feeling forced to do it. It's something that people seem to have trouble with. So, congratulations on that, being able to do that and realize that you don't want to do it anymore. And, congrats on the wedding as well. I don't know how recent it was, but I'll give you a congrats for that too.
ありがとうございます。はい。
And, as for the Aono fight, this last fight that you had here, I mean, how did it go as you expected it to? I mean, because it was, a pretty back and forth thing, kind of a comeback of sorts. So does that make the whole thing all that much sweeter, kind of having to overcome some adversity, especially after, having these realizations and just, yeah, that relief being all that much better considering, also a great prospect, just everything that went into the moment. Like, did it make it that much better considering how the fight played out?
キャリアは向こうの方がないし、
I consider myself a fighter that doesn't have a definite strong point. Like I'm very well-rounded, but I don't have a definitive strong point like Aono does. Her wrestling is very good. She's a very strong wrestler, and she has a strong point. So that was one of the biggest concerns that I had coming into the fight, thinking that maybe her wrestling will out wrestle my total MMA abilities. But my master taught me how MMA works, and I do believe that fighting MMA is more like it's like a rock, scissors, and paper kind of stuff. You have to adjust to whatever your opponent puts out there, and you have to use everything you can, all your skills you can, to able to beat what they have. So my plan was to I knew that she's a wrestler. I knew that she was gonna come for the takedown. So my plan was to have her. My plan was to execute my strengths when she was cage wrestling. So to take the fight to the cage, and when she's using her momentum, I wanted to make the move. But for the first 2 rounds, I couldn't get there, and she took me down, and she was on top of me for the first 2 rounds. She didn't really use too much ground and pound, so I had a lot of time to think about what to do in my next move. So with all that being said, the third round, I felt that she was becoming fatigued with all that. She was burning all that energy, and then she made one mistake of shooting in with her head down because she was tired. So that's when I knew, and that's when the fight actually went to the cage where I could utilize what I've been practicing on. So I was able to use my striking and grappling to expose her mistake, and that led to that finish. So I'm very happy with what happened. But I do believe that Aono has the great potential, and she's got her strong points to lead Jewels and the atomweight division. So I hope that she learns from this mistake, because she has such great potential in becoming one of the faces of the division. Her wrestling is fantastic. Her physical's great. All she needs to do is mix things up a little more, and that's how I beat her. So I hope she learns from this mistake, and and if that works out to make Aono a better fighter, I'm very happy to be a part of her career, and I very much look forward in what she has in her career.
Yeah, I mean, it really did work out perfectly for you in that regard. How gives you that one opening, and just took it there. And then as for Aono, of course, she will only get better from having fought somebody as experienced as you. So yeah, definitely agree on that note. And I mean, the afterward, right? The retirement ceremony. I think that's one of the coolest things that happens over in MMA in Japan. Like, of course, the one that always comes to mind for me is Megumi Fuji's big, ceremony. But you got a very special moment too there. So just what was that retirement ceremony moment like after retaining the title and just the big immediate celebration? What was it like?
So first, I was very happy to be able to listen to those last bells after a win. And I was thinking, man, it would have sucked if I was listening to this after a loss. So that part was a very good relief. But more importantly, the promotion showed a video of all my former opponents giving me a message. And a lot of those fighters, my former opponents, are now very famous. They're very strong, and it made me realize how fruitful my career was. I was very blessed to be able to face such tough fighters, such great talent, and it was I was very moved looking back at my career and facing all these great fighters and talent, and I was very satisfied with my career. So standing there listening to the final bells, I was able to think and look back at my career, and I was just very grateful. And I came to Tokyo to become a fighter. I moved from Aomori to come become a fighter. And at the time, I was concerned. I was worried. I wasn't confident that if I could do this. But I have absolutely no regrets, and I think I made the right choice of coming to Tokyo and becoming a professional fighter. And at the moment, I had nothing but gratitude. I was very blessed and fortunate to have such a great career.
Yeah, it definitely worked out pretty well, a fantastic career, and that it's so cool. It's so cool that they did that for you, and just how they do that over there. Just an awesome thing to see. I love seeing moments like that. So, very, very cool. And I'm sure that there are many, and you kind of had things run back in your mind when you were maybe watching that video. But do you have some kind of favorite moments from your career, or things that stick out the most? I mean, you fought everybody, been a champion, one of the best atomweights that we've ever seen. So anything that sticks out in particular, or is there just too many to choose from in the moments catalog?
So it's so hard to choose, and there's so many beautiful moments, and it's very hard to choose. But if I were to list two, my first one would be my fight against John Woo Park. This fight, I experienced something amazing. And before the fight, the odds were totally against me. Everybody thought that Park was going to win. She's a very strong, highly touted fighter from Korea. And I've seen some of her fights, and I thought she was a very strong opponent. And everybody thought that I was going to lose. So heading into the fight, my coach told me that I could do whatever I want. And, there's no game plan. Do what you want to do. And then during the fight, I had this experience where, like, I was invincible. I could see what she wanted to do, and it's as if I could see the future. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I could execute everything I wanted it to do because I knew, like, I was in the zone, right? It's almost if, like, in Super Mario, I got the star. I felt invincible. So that was an amazing experience. I felt that I could do whatever I want, however I want, and I was able to execute that. So that was a very memorable moment in my career. My second one is back when I was still out in Aomori, before I came to Tokyo, Hamasaki became the Invicta World Champion. And I was very excited and proud that the strongest woman in my division is a Japanese person. And it gave me hope, and it definitely encouraged me. But also, I was disappointed that not too many people in Japan know about this. I was very frustrated about the fact that, women's MMA hasn't been approved or recognized as it should be. The best atomweight in the world is a Japanese girl. So that's one of the reasons that really inspired me to come to Tokyo and become a professional fighter and do what I do. So Hamasaki was definitely one of my idols. And I had the opportunity to fight her this year. And one of the reasons why is because that I heard through the grapevine that nobody would want to fight her in Japan. No Japanese fighter would want to fight her, and I thought that was just such a waste. I was the Deep Jewels champion at the time, and I thought that if I didn't use this opportunity to challenge her when she doesn't even have an opponent, I wanted to challenge her while I had the belt when I can. So I did, and I got the opportunity to fight my idol, and I knew heading into the fight that it would be very hard for me to win, but being able to punch each other in the face with my idol, that was a very special and precious moment of my career. So those two are the ones that I would have to list out of many wonderful memories I've had.
Yeah, a lot to choose from. Definitely a hard question, so I apologize for that, but fantastic answers. Both great choices indeed. And I mean, I wanted to ask you about that moment with Ayaka that you guys shared in the ring after Ryzen 22, because at that moment I thought, I couldn't understand what you were saying because you got on the microphone after, but I thought you were retiring right then. So I mean, and just you could see that you guys shared a special moment there. So just what can you tell me a little bit about what happened there between you guys after your fight that you had?
まさきさんがまず、
I really don't remember because I was too excited. But I remember that I thanked her for accepting me, and then she thanked me for being her opponent. I think just words of gratitude for each other was exchanged, but I was very excited, and I can't remember everything. But heading into this fight, people around me are like, "Oh, you're fearless. You're walking into a for sure loss. You don't know what you're getting into. You're not even at the same league as Hamasaki." So there are a lot of people saying critical things about me calling her out. But after the fight, she was very grateful that I called her out and told her that I wanted to fight her, and she was very grateful for the fight, and that itself just saved me from all the critical words that I have been taking leading into this fight. So it was a very special moment after that fight.
Yeah, just gotta ignore that outside noise sometimes. What are they talking about? And you guys, you needed each other, so definitely a very cool moment there, and ended up being a fun fight. And Tomo, this is one of my favorite questions to ask people, and I think perfect timing, of course, with the conclusion of your career and everything. I'm curious if you could go back in time, right? Go back in a time machine and talk to yourself when you were starting out in MMA, knowing all you know now. What advice would you give yourself starting out?
っていうかな。まあ、難しい。
It's a difficult question, Rick. It's very difficult, but I would tell myself that you're on the right track. Don't doubt yourself. What you have been doing, what you are doing, what you're gonna do, it will be the right thing. So don't doubt yourself. You're on the right track. That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, definitely some good advice there. And I mean, I love asking that question because, always good advice out of you guys. And, it might be hard to think about, but I think the answers are always great. So another good one there. And, Tomo, it's undeniable to say that you're a very important part of atomweight history. So maybe another tough question, but, how do you want to be remembered? When people look back at the history of, the division, your career, and let's say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, as time goes on, how do you want to be remembered?
very, very, very difficult question ですね。
So that's another difficult question, Rick. But I would have to say I would want to be remembered as a fighter who was great at expressing her lifestyle. Like I said at the beginning, I put everything on the line in the ring. I don't care if I die in the ring. And I like to use the word express as a fighter because mixed martial arts, the A version, it's an art, and artists express themselves and demonstrate themselves through their performance. So that's one word expression that I really like to use as a fighter, that it's an art form, and I use it to express myself and how I live. So that's one of the things, and I never stopped challenging myself. I always would take on tough fights. I wanted to fight the best. Even after I got my title, I wanted to fight the best. So I asked for the best atomweight out there, and I want to be remembered as a fighter who continued to push her limits and challenge herself. And of course, I was probably the smallest atomweight in the division. So if people could remember me, that I was a small girl that kept challenging and pushing herself, that would be great.
Yeah, well, I think that anybody who does know about you will definitely remember you for those things. Not many fighters at 4'11", so it's definitely got that going. But as for the immediate future, Tomo, what are your plans next for life? I mean, do you plan to do things still related to MMA, like whether it's helping teach people and whatnot, or you just trying to get away from it completely? What's next for Tomo Maesawa in your life?
そうですね。今、正直なところ、本当に真っ
So
最
honestly, I
で、
don't have
さらな状態
a plan
で、
at all right
なん
now.
か教えるのも楽しいだろ
I
う
do
な
think
と
that
思い
probably
つつ、
teaching would be fun, but if I'm going to do it, I have to commit to it. I can't really half-ass anything. And of course,
思うので、
being involved in the mixed martial arts world is, you need discipline and you need to commit.
ですけ
So I'm
ど、
not quite sure if I'm ready for that yet,
うん、
but
でも
I
求め
think
ら
it
れ
would be fun.
たらもちろん
Also, I do feel like I
たい
want to
な
challenge
と
on
は
new things,
思う
take
反
on new
面、
things, and
でも新しいこと
live in a
にも
different
チャレンジしたいの
field.
で、
That would probably
まあ、
sound
ま
fun.
だちょっとまだ
But
見つ
either
かっ
way,
てはいないんです
I
けど、
will
や
continue
る
to
んだっ
push
たら
myself,
全く違う
and
道
whatever
で
I
も、
do and choose to
その
do
本
in my
で、
next chapter of life,
自分の
I
今
will
まで
continue to
格闘技
challenge,
で得てきたもの
take on
を
challenges.
生かしつつも、
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all you can do, right? Is push yourself. So, whatever it is, I wish you the best of luck, and can't wait to see what it is. So, I will leave you with one last thing, Tomo. A fun and kind of a random little question here. Thanks so much for the time again. This has been amazing. But here's my last question for you. Fun, random kind of question I wanted to ask. So, what is the best song to sing during karaoke? Do you have a pick?
カラオケで歌う曲でそう、日本のカラオケでってことですか？日本語の曲で？
Can it be Japanese, Drake?
Yeah, of
Can it be
course.
a Japanese song?
Yeah.
はい、大丈夫です。
日本語で。
はい、大丈夫です。
なんだろう。
So you absolutely threw me off because I was expecting a fight-related question.
わあ、すごいなん
So I had
か
no idea how to respond to that one. But
格闘技
if
じ
you
ゃ
think
な
about it,
い
I
の
do
質
like
問が
to
来ると
sing
思ったから、もうそれ
Aladdin's
で
A
今
Whole
予
New
想
World.
考
And
えつかないですけ
that
ど。
song is meant to be sang by two people.
へ
But
ーなん
I like to sing it by myself.
なんだろうな。私はアラジンの
All right, very cool. Well, then, do you have any other fighters that are good singing partners with, if you do sing with them at all?
行ったことなくて、
Yeah, it's funny that I really haven't had any private encounters with fight-related people. But now that I'm retired, I'm very much looking forward to, socially interacting with people related to the fight scene. I actually have an appointment with Hamasaki to go eat yakiniku. So I'm looking forward for that. And yeah, I have to say that I do believe I have some confidence that I'm a good singer. So I'm looking forward to showing that off.
All right, awesome. I mean, you can challenge Hamasaki in a karaoke contest or something like that.
はい。行ってきます。
Okay, Tomo. Well, that is all I have for you. Big congratulations again on the career, on the win. I mean, just everything. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time. This was awesome. Big arigato gozaimashita, for joining me here. And I just wish you the best of luck going forward. Yeah, I just can't say congratulations enough. It's been awesome to watch you, and just wish you the best. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Drake.
From there, it is on to one of the two men looking to make history in the RIZIN 25 main event, Yutaka Saito. All right. So thanks so much for joining me, Yutaka. Great to get to speak to you, man. Excited for the big fight coming up and everything. But first, coincidentally, I've noticed, I spoke to Kenta earlier for this episode, and he's got his birthday coming up, but it was your birthday last month, so happy late birthday. Just curious, how did you celebrate?
誕生日は変わらずに練習して過ごしてました。
So I spent my birthday doing everything as usual, nothing special. It was just a totally another day for me.
All right. Are you not big of a birthday celebrator guy? Because more as you get older, you're like, I don't know if I really want to celebrate anymore.
そうです。僕は若い時からもう
I've
そういう
generally
誕生日
had
とかイベントが
pretty
それなりに
much
興
no
味なかったん
interest
で、
in special events
友
and
達に
dates like
こうちゃ
that.
んと過ごしたい
So
なっていう
I've
ファン
always
の
been
方
like
で
this, spent an everyday life since I was younger.
All right, I hear you, man. I hear you. But I mean, in terms of things that were special, you did get that great win in your last fight at Rise 23 against Majima. So just to get right into it, did that fight go as expected?
そうですね。まあ、真島選手は組み技が強い
So I
です
knew
し
heading into the fight, I knew that Majima was a very, very tough grappler, and that's where his strength is. So heading into the fight, I knew that as long as I didn't let him fight his fight, I should be okay. But obviously in the first round, it was kind of his fight. But I felt that I wasn't in real threat of being finished. Obviously he was controlling the fight, but I didn't feel any threat that I would be finished. So I wanted to be more aggressive and be able to utilize my plan in the second round, which I did.
Yeah, definitely did just that. And I mean, winning by soccer kicks, always a really cool thing to see, right? So I mean, in terms of where that ranks on your highlight reel, man, is that right up there? Is that the best? Would you say that's your best favorite finish of yours, I guess?
そうですね。まあ、僕自身ああいう勝ち方になるとは思って
So
いな
I
くて、
I really
まあ
didn't
自
anticipate
分
that
のイメージ
finish
の
at
中で
all.
はパンチでノックアウ
I
トするって
had
いうイメージがで
visualized
きてたんですけ
myself
ど、
knocking him out
ま
with
あ
my
結果
hands.
的に、まあ、低い
But
ところから
the
頭
opportunity
打
was
つ位置だっ
there.
たので、
His head was
まあ
low.
のサッ
He
カー
had a
キック
very
が
low
まあ勝負の
shot
分かれ
on
目だった
me,
なっていうふうに
and the
思ってました。
opportunity was there,
ま
so
あ
I took
強
it.
い真島選手
And
の勝
it
ち方な
turned
の
out to
で、
be a
僕の中で
very
はものすごく
very
感慨深いというか、
highlight-ish reel
すご
finish
いなん
against
か
a very strong
今
opponent.
日
So I'm
自
very
分の
happy
人
with
生の
that.
流れを変えたような
And
勝ち方だと思います。
but I do feel that finish has definitely turned my life around, and I think a lot of things have moved rapidly since starting that finish.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, got the big title fight coming up, so that's definitely a big deal and everything. And I mean, yeah, it's a great way to start your Ryzen career. The Ryzen debut is what that was. So just from an overall standpoint, the experience of getting to work with and do things for Ryzen, competing, the outside the ring stuff, all that. I mean, how would you describe the experience of getting to work with Ryzen for the first time?
そうですね、試合の雰囲気で言うと、まあ
So
全ての
first off,
PA
the event
MMA
itself,
ピ
the
ア
Pier
リーグ
Arena,
ですか、
Yokohama,
はものすごくいい
that
会場
arena
で、
was absolutely amazing.
試合見てもものすごく
The
気持ちよかった
atmosphere
で
is
すし、
fantastic,
試合までのプ
and
ロモーションは
just
とに
fighting
か
in
く
such a big
ライジン
venue
さん
is definitely
の
something else.
力というか、
And
今まで僕の試合
just the
見ても
promotion
ですけど、
itself
見た
that
ことない
Ryzen
人たち
and
に
the
も
exposure and the
試合前
promotion
か
that
らいろい
Ryzen
ろこ
does,
う、まあ
I
期待
do
の声とか
feel that
期
it's
待があるって
it's
いうのを教えても
overwhelming.
らったりしてたんで、
A lot of
プロモー
people
ションと
that
しての大
haven't
きさは
even
非常
seen
に
me
感じて
fight
おり
in
ます。
Shudo would contact me through social media and, give me some nice words. So just fighting in Ryzen itself, the exposure I get for myself is unreal.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it being kind of overwhelming there and everything, but at the same time, do you think that all the experience that you have accrued in Shuto, helped get you ready for that moment and like relieve some pressure at all, or was it just kind of another animal?
そうですね、まあリング自体がすごい久しぶりだったので、
So for me,
ずっ
fighting
と
in the
ここ
ring
5年ぐらいはずっとケージ
was
で試合
definitely
をしてたんです
something
け
that
ど
I
も、
haven't done in a
ケージで
while.
やる前はずっとリングで
For
や
me,
っ
I
てい
guess
て、
for the past 4 years, I've
で、
only
シ
fought
ュー
in the
トで
cage.
当てられてた相
So
手っていう
fighting
の
in a
も、
ring was
まあ
something,
結構
something
ちゃんと
special.
したという
And
か、強い選手を
which I do
当てら
believe
れ
that
て、
even when I was
ま
fighting
あ今回のこの
Shudo,
選手
I was
対
going
も
against really
似
hard
たような選手
opponents,
との
tough
対戦
opponents,
も何
legit
個かあったんで
guys.
すけど、
And
まあ苦戦した、過去に苦
I
戦し
think
た
that got
タ
me
イプの選
prepared.
手に
Like
対し
every
て、
fight
今回こういう勝ち方でき
means
たっていうこ
something.
とで、
And
こ
I
の
did
シュートで
face
戦った経
very
験っていうの
hard
は
and
間
tough
違いなかったな
grapplers
と
in
思って、
Shuto
負
who
けた
fight just like
こう
Majima.
強くなっ
So
た
I think
姿を
all those
皆さん
fights
に
and
見せれてよかっ
experience
たな
got
と
me
すごい思い
prepared
ま
for
す。
this fight.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit hard to deny, but I was just curious about that and everything. So, and now, I mean, you get the one win, soccer kicks, like I said, great win and everything. And now you get a title shot. I mean, was that surprising to you when they came to you with that offer? I mean, what was the initial reaction when, they wanted you to fight for the very first Ryzen featherweight title?
そうですね、まあタイトルマッチということで
So
言うと、
usually, when you fight
ま
for
あ
for you
2連勝
challenge
とか
for a
3連勝と
title,
か連
you
勝
have
してい
to
く中
be
で
at
こ
least
う流
winning
れが
twice
で
or
きてくる
three
かなっ
three
て
wins in a row. And
正
that's
直
what
思
I
っ
was
たんですけ
expecting.
ど、
So I was
まあ
expecting to take it slow. But
8月の勝
I
ち方
guess
が
how
強く
I
て、
made
それが
my
評価さ
I
れ
made
た
a
ってい
really
うこと
good
と、
impression my first
まあ、あと朝倉
appearance.
選手っていうこの
And
まあ
Ryzen
世界級
definitely
選手という
has
存在があったので、
their star as Mikuru Asakura, and I was surprised. I was surprised with the offer, but I do believe that everything, the timing was right for everything, and everything came together. And for me, given an opportunity, there's no reason for me to turn it down. So I definitely happily accepted it, and here I am.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a hard thing to turn down, that's for sure, especially taking on somebody with that star power that Mikuru does possess and everything, and just a great opponent in general. So, I mean, when you look at him as your opponent, I mean, what do you think of the matchup with him specifically, and like what he might bring to the table that, let's say, other opponents might not have?
Stylistically, I don't think he's a bad matchup wise, against me. But you got to face the fact that he's fought in RIZIN 7 times and he's undefeated. So there must be definitely something that he possesses that maybe I'm not seeing. So there's definitely some facts that I will probably find out once I face him in the ring. But as far as style-wise, I don't think it's a bad matchup for me.
Yeah, and when you're preparing for a fight, and especially a big fight like this, are you a fighter who kind of likes to, do a lot of tape study and like watch back, let's say, a lot of his fights and really focus in on him as an opponent in the matchup? Or is it more like, I'm going to focus on more of myself, I'll let the coaches, do their thing and prepare the game plan, and I'll worry more about myself and not get too in my head about worrying about what he's going to do rather than what you will?
So I definitely study my opponent's videos or fights, but I try not to train or prepare for my opponent. I'm the type of fighter who wants to dictate the pace. I want to take control of the fight. So knowing how my opponent reacts, I try to train to take advantage of pretty much be in control of the entire fight. So I don't really train specifically for an opponent, but I do know what kind of fighter he is and what he does. I have all that in my head. But with all that being said, I still train to take control of the fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, got to kind of find that fine balance, whatever works for you. So, yeah, definitely, man. And I mean, this fight, not to put any extra pressure on you for what you already have, but I mean, it's history, the first RIZIN featherweight champion. So, I mean, consider that, and then just what it means to become a champion, for a big promotion like RIZIN. What does that mean to you, to be a champion, and not only a champion for RIZIN, but the very first featherweight champion?
So I understand that the first ever champion will always be in the books, and it will always be remembered, and I do believe that the fight itself is going to be passed on and be seen for decades. So I think that this is I understand the stakes, the importance of this fight, but I also do believe that every fight is important for a fighter. So there's no real fight that's more important than one another. I do believe that every fight is important, but I do understand the stakes that are on this fight, and I do understand that the result will definitely kind of affect with my life, with my career as a fighter, and my life itself. So I do understand how important it is, but I try not to think about that and try to head into this fight as just another fight, which it is. So I'm just trying to stay normal as much as possible.
Yeah, of course. Don't want to get, think too far ahead or anything like that, of course. But at the same time, I'm a little bit curious too, not to think too much ahead, but to think ahead at the same time, in the long term. Do you think it would kind of be better for you to win? Because, I mean, of course, you think it would be better for you to win, but like, because Mikuru might not stick around, who knows when he'll retire or something like that. Just in terms of becoming the champion and kicking off the legitimacy of the title right away, and having somebody like yourself who would be sure to defend it and be a champion who is around to be a champion, I guess.
とてもいい質問ですね。
So Drake, that's a very good question, and I think you're spot on with it. But to answer your question, I mean, personally, yes, I think it would be better if I win, and I think for the fans and for the fight fans and Japanese fans in general, I think it'd be better if I won this one. I don't want to talk bad about my opponent, but I think there's tons of people who want to see Mikuru lose. And, I think just me making that happen would be just more interesting and better for the sport. And me as a champion, I do believe that my desire once I become champion is to, take on tougher opponents, international opponents, let's say exchanging fighters with Bellator. I'd like to take on their tough guys. And, me as a fighter, martial artist, I always want to take on those challenges. So for the legitimacy of the sport and, just for a new story, I think it'd be much better if I take the title on this one.
Yeah, I mean, all great points. And it brings me to the question of like, do you feel like he's overlooking you at all? I mean, I'm sure you've probably been asked this plenty of times now, but because he's got so much other things that he's thinking about, like, his YouTube channel, all this, maybe if he just fighting for fun and all that, and just, maybe not taking you as seriously as he should. Do you feel like, he's not giving you enough respect going into this?
So I don't think nobody knows what he's really thinking, right? We can only all determine based on what he says, but we're not, I'm not quite sure if he means everything. That's his character as a fighter, and that's how he's playing it. But I do think he is a true professional fighter. So whatever comes out of his mouth is something else, and that's how he carries himself. But as a professional fighter, I do believe that he's training really hard, and he is taking this fight very seriously.
Do you think that he would still take this fight if you were to do it where the loser has to cancel their YouTube channel?
No, you really have some really good questions, Drake. It's very interesting. But I think he would. Would he really do it if he lost? I'm not quite sure if he would close it down. But I think I think he would take the fight under those circumstances.
Well, thank you for that compliment. I know I'm just thinking outside the box here. So, anyways, Yutaka, I've got just two more here for you. I'm curious to think ahead a little bit again. There's been talk for a little bit now, at least among the fans and everything, about wanting a potential featherweight Grand Prix tournament, in RIZIN. And so I'm curious, let's say that happens after you become champion, would you want to be a part of it, or would it be something where you'd want to kind of watch the challengers duke it out to decide who your next challenger is?
If it were to happen, I would like to see the participants first. And if I do feel that, the participants are well-deserved opponents, I think I'd like to participate from the beginning.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting prospect of, the tournament there. And when there's already a champion and everything, of course, we've seen Bellator doing it where the champion's already in there. So in the mix for the tournament and everything. So, yeah, I was just curious about that. And, I'll leave you with this last thing here, Yutaka. Thanks so much for the time again. What would you say, another kind of hard question here, the biggest learning experience that you've had so far in your career? If there's one thing you can point out where you're like, man, that really stuck with me, then what would it be?
So I can't really point out to one incident that I learned from, but every fight is important for me, and but I think that every loss is more important, and especially the ones that I look back most recently that I've lost twice in Shuto. I lost once in VTJ against Isao, but every time I lose, losing sucks, and you're so devastated that you want to quit, and it's that heartbreaking when you lose. But every time you learn a lot from it, and then you bounce back and you get better. So I think, the result of me losing and going through that emotional process got me here, and I'm interviewing you today for this fight. So I think the biggest learning processes are coming from my losses.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they always say, you learn more from the losses than the wins, and it's hard to deny that. So, yeah, that is all I got for you, man. Thanks so much, Yutaka, for coming to join me here today. Arigatou gozaimashita. And man, I want you to promise me, if you win that title, you better have a big celebration because you deserve it. All right, none of this nonsense about not partying for celebrations.
わかりました。お気遣いいただきありがとうございます。とお伝えください。
Thank you very much for your concern. I'll do that.
Arigato.
Thank you very much.
And last but not least, it is the former RIZIN light heavyweight champion and now top UFC contender, Jiri Prochazka. Yeah, how was the day for you, man? I know it's late for you. Sorry to, do this later in the day.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, it's okay.
So yeah, man, of course, going to be talking about some fighting and stuff. And I mean, you got the big one coming up here, and it's kind of a ways away now, over in February time. Do you like a little bit extra time to prepare for things, or would you prefer it to be closer than when it is?
For me, it doesn't matter. Now, I will focusing now for my upgrades, and till when it will be the new year, around the new year and Christmas time, I start to hard preparing for the race.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you've had 31 fights in your career in 7 years, 8 years, and I mean that's kind of a lot, fighting a lot for that time span.
Yeah.
Did you mean to fight so much so often? I mean, obviously it's been working out for you, but was that kind of the plan? Just stay as busy as you can going, starting your career?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't care about that because I love it. It's my way, and I don't think about that like it's so much fights or it's not low. It's not so much. So
Yeah.
I don't think about it like that.
Yeah, definitely, man. And of course, this fight with Reyes, main event. I mean, in your second fight in the UFC, I mean, that's a really cool thing, showing you some respect and everything. Were you surprised that they gave you a main event so soon?
A little bit, but from the start, when we started in the UFC, we talk about that with my team, and our idea is to go directly for the title. Yeah, and I think this fight with Reyes is it's good for that. It's good. It's with that idea. So I think it's good.
Yeah.
I feel ready for that fight. I need to change some mistakes from my last fight, but I believe I will win.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just always trying to improve. So yeah, that makes sense. And the fight is a 5-rounder, I believe. Your first 5-rounder, but at the same time, you've had fights where the 10-minute first rounds before. So do you feel like it's not going to make much of a difference because you've already had not a lot of people get to fight in those 10-minute first rounds. So I mean, it's not going to matter much for you, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, just speaking of the 10-minute rounds that you fought in before, I mean, tell me what that's like.
When you control your breathing in the fights, it doesn't matter for you if it will be 5-minute or 10-minute round. Now it's when you control your breath. Now then is a fight just what you do, nothing more, nothing else. Now then is the fight just about the moves and and the control breathing, and reflections, everything, all that rhythm.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't really treat it differently in terms of preparation, right? The preparation's the same no matter what the time is for the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, taking on Dominic Reyes, like we said here, does it give you any like extra confidence at all seeing how his last fight went, you know, against Blachowicz, which wasn't very good for him? Or is it just kind of a styles thing where Blachowicz was just able to shut him down pretty good?
Yeah. I not ignore that because it was a nice fight with Blachowicz, and I think it's a big opportunity for me. Yeah, and I take the Reyes like the top fighter in the UFC and the top fighter in the world. So it's an opportunity for me to fight with him and to win this fight. And
yeah, of course. And it's funny, I wanted to ask you about this because, man, for your UFC debut, you know, against Volkan, you changed your walkout song, man. You had one of the best walkout songs in the city, you know, by Kevin Rudolph. I thought that was one of the best walkouts, you know, in RIZIN and everything. What made you decide to change it?
My walkouts.
Yeah.
My walkouts. Because now it's time. Now I'm I feel like that I don't need I don't need some things like I need to change. I was needed to change something
Mm-hmm.
from the RIZIN to the UFC, and to be not the same fighter, to be the better, because my brain is remember emotion and everything, every this stuffs with my entry to the fight, with this entry song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to have the same emotions, same mindset, and yeah, that was the entry song. That was the why I need to change that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's the next chapter, right? So kind of starting fresh.
That's true. And maybe in the next fight will be another. Yeah, because now I don't want to I don't believe I need to change my style again. I need to change my style, my mindset, because in this first round, first fight in the UFC, that wasn't me. That was like I was like hypnotized by myself. Yeah, and I don't want that because in the first round was horrible for me. Yeah, it was challenge to. I take that like a challenge to be the tough, and don't man, when he punched me,
Mm-hmm.
I was like you can't punch me and I go down.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry for my English, but
it's all good.
I'm working on that still. And yeah, I need to change something. I need to change my style to the next fight. So maybe it will be another entry song.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just mentioning, you know, that first round kind of against Volkan, did you kind of prefer to be perfect then rather than not having, you know, him rock you, but at the same time, you know, showing that you could get through being hurt, like, you know, when he did hit you. I mean, that's impressive at the same time, but it's best not to have that happen, right? Is what you're saying.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you said that correctly.
Yeah. And I mean, just as for the RIZIN entrance, though, great song, like I said. But you know, the big entrances that they do have. I mean, what is that feeling like going through those? Because obviously, very different from the UFC and pretty much anywhere else. I mean, does it hype you up a lot when you're going down the ramp like you used to?
You mean the entry?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference, like RIZIN and UFC
Mm-hmm.
in this entry song and the shows around that. And I'm very glad for that. I'm very glad for that. I was in RIZIN and to have the skills, and I have the skill with this big show around the fighting, because now I believe now it's time to just for fighting, and no show around, no show around the fighting, just pure walk on the cage and do what I do my best.
Yeah, just complete focus, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, was it kind of weird going from, the big spectacle of RIZIN, all the fans, just everything that it brings to the table, and then you go to the UFC and during a time where there's no fans, right? It's totally quiet. I mean, is that weird?
Yeah, but I don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about that. I think the my fights will make a new support in the UFC, and I believe that my style is for the fans is attractive. So I believe I will have the more fans than in the Japan.
Yeah. I mean, you have a very exciting fighting style, so definitely, I think we'll continue to grow the fan base, going forward if keep fighting how you do. So yeah, and after leaving RIZIN, there was a lot of talk of you maybe like fighting Ryan Bader in Bellator or just going to Bellator or anything. So I'm curious, like, were you close at all to going to Bellator afterwards, or was it just more talk from other people?
Yeah, I think that was so close, because after the last fight in RIZIN, my manager talked about that with manager from the Bellator. So, but my choice was the UFC, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, working out so far, and I mean, Scott Coker, the Bellator president, he kind of, had interesting thoughts, of course, on, once you signed to the UFC, and afterwards he said he didn't think you would do very well in Bellator's division anyways. I'm just curious, did you hear that? And is it kind of funny in hindsight now, if you did hear that?
It doesn't matter. It's many people says a lot of words. So for me, it doesn't matter. I respect him. He's a president of Bellator, so I respect him. I respect his fighters, and I'm just going in my by my way.
Yeah.
So that's all.
So like that, does that stuff fuel you at all though? Like maybe use it as like motivation or just noise, just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motivation is for me.
Of course. And, I really wanted to talk about one of your past fights though that you did have in RIZIN as well. The Brandon Halsey fight, just because in my opinion, that one is really kind of weird. Like, kind of a crazy fight all over the place. He falls out of the ring, right? And then, gets back in the ring and he's kind of trying to avoid you a little bit. And then, you kind of give him your neck for the rear naked choke, but then turn it around and knock him out. Like,
yeah, that was
weird.
That was that was crazy fight. That was a crazy fight, and my coaches was they were angry for me. Yeah, because that was the horrible performance from me.
I mean, is that the only time you've had like the weirdest fight, you would say? Because how he fell out of the ring and everything, it looked like maybe it would be stopped. Like just was it strange, right?
Yeah, that's the problem with the ring. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the problem with the ring, and when the Brandon he tried to do this weird moves, so it was crazy.
Yeah, that one just always stands out to me as something.
I think he tried to. I think he tried to relax it, and to take a time for relaxing, or sometime or whatever. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And but it was funny.
Yeah, definitely a unique moment in MMA history right there. So, but still a win for you. So, works out, of course. And, just as for more UFC stuff, of course, it's happened recently. I know that you saw Glover versus Thiago Santos over this past weekend. And, just curious what you thought about that. I mean, Glover, man, crazy that he's still looking as good as he is, right? I mean, what'd you think about his win?
He's still in this fight. He was keep the pressure. Yeah. He was keep the pressure still, and I think that was the main thing in this fight, that he won that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the Santos needs, I think he needs to work on himself. So because just a little time to no concentrate, and the Glover take that. Glover take that. Take this small space. Yeah, in this no concentration from Santos.
Yeah,
I think that was the very, very, very great performance from the Texera.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, crazy to see how he is, still so good at his age now, 41 and everything. But
but that's not just just performance. That he's he's a gentleman, like because after fight, how he told, how he was, what he said, and very, very, he's very respectful, and that's the true. He is a true warrior.
Oh yeah,
he's a true warrior.
Yeah. Glover's definitely a great guy, and so it's good to see him, get these wins and everything. And with him getting that win, and then your fight coming up with Reyes, these are all top contender guys, right? If you win, you could get a title shot. Glover, people think should maybe get the title shot now that he got that win. Do you think that the UFC is talking about doing Adesanya to come up and fight Blachowicz before you guys? I mean, do you think they should still do that, or give it to Glover, or wait for you guys? Like, what should happen with the title fight right now?
I really don't care about that. But the what's the name? Adesanya.
Yeah,
Adesanya he's the champion of the middleweight. So I think the champion can fight with another champion. So that's the logically I think normal. But the Glover, I think he wants that fight, and he won this hard opponent, the Santos. So it's up to UFC just.
Yeah, of course. We'll see what they decide to do, and it sounds like they will go with that one. And if they do stick with Blachowicz and Adesanya, who do you think would win that?
I think the Blachowicz will win, but I don't like the tip the fighter.
Yeah.
So
an interesting one though. So
yeah, I think the Adesanya is not ready for that weight.
Yeah,
but we will see.
Exactly, we'll see. So yeah, man, just a couple more things here for you. And it's funny because everybody I've been talking to recently, it seems like it's everybody's having birthdays, and then I talked to you, and it seems your birthday was last month. So late happy birthday to you, sir. I'm curious.
Thank you.
Did you do have any celebration, anything special for the birthday?
Yeah, my friends made little celebrating here in my home, and that was crazy.
What'd you do?
What? We drink a lot of vodka and just a little celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
It's
Sounds fun.
every time celebrate with my friends is every time dangerous.
Yeah, of course. Awesome, man. So, all right, Yuri, I will leave you with one last thing, man. I'd love to hear about fighter nickname stories and everything. Denisa, your nickname, if you're still using that. Just curious, what the story is behind it, how you got it, and everything about the nickname.
Yeah. One time when I was in my gyms, my coach, Jitsam Gym,
yeah,
where I'm from, he made how to say this camp. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
we had a camp, and we was trained in outside, and he said something for the girl Denisa,
yeah.
and she was there too, and
okay.
I said what? Like I don't hear good. I wasn't hear the good name. I said what? And from this time they said Denisa to me, and I don't care about that. It's nothing meaning.
Yeah.
It's nothing meaning this nickname, but it's with me still.
Yeah, it works. So there's a good little story. So, all right.
Well, I think when will be changed this nickname to another, I don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we will see.
Yeah. Maybe we could change the nickname to the champ if you end up getting the title there. So still the RIZIN champ. Technically, you didn't lose that belt, so
yeah,
still the lineal champion. So
let's take another.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, Yuri. Well, that is all I got for you, man. Thanks so much for doing this. Awesome getting to talk to you. One of the most exciting fighters, I think, across all divisions in MMA. So, yeah, always excited to see you fight, man. And can't wait for the main event, of course, in February, ways away.
Me too.
Yeah, just wish you the best, man. And, stay safe with, all the crazy stuff happening in the world.
Okay. Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Victory.
Yes.
You know what? I am talking in the shop, RIZIN shop today.
All right. Very nice.
The RIZIN apparel shop.
Sweet. Are you like customer service or what's going on?
We got customer service this Saturday.
Okay.
No, we're not open yet, so I'm just
okay.
So here we got the belts.
Awesome. The Yuri belt and then the other belt.
And we got this is Manny Pacquiao's signed glove, I think.
Oh, right on.
We got all the wall of signatures from all the fighters who visited.
Nice.
Yeah, so
that's a fun place to visit. I want to get out there and buy some merch. All right, so community question time, of course. Always fun to do at the end of the show here. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions. We got multiple questions from 3 different people. So let's start off here with @Stevenson_902 on Twitter. He asks, will there be a RIZIN and Bellator show again this New Year's Eve? And I don't think we need a Shingo answer there because it's pretty obvious that isn't happening because of what's happening in the world. Pretty cut and dry, right?
Yeah, you just nailed it. I mean, it would be awesome if we could,
yes.
But just the regulations in Japan for international travelers, it's just they're not lifting it, and you know, the quarantine's still there, and it's just going to cause too much of a headache to make that happen this New Year's Eve. But we've been talking to Bellator, and we definitely want to make something happen again. And we haven't lost communication. We constantly talk on a regular basis. So good things should be able to come once this crap's over. But hopefully we'd like to do that again.
Yeah, would be awesome. And I mean, let's wait until international fighters compete for RIZIN first before we talk about Bellator, right? So we will see about that. And all right, his second question is, what will they do with the vacant super atomweight title and light heavyweight titles? Any pre-planned thoughts, I suppose, about that?
Well, as for the super atomweight title, obviously we have contenders. We have tons of contenders, and there's a lot of matchups we can do. So most likely, I would think it's safe to say that someone will be fighting somebody for the vacant super atomweight title on New Year's Eve. I think it's safe to assume that. As for the light heavyweight belt, we just don't have anybody to fight for it in Japan right now. So that's probably going to stay vacant until next year. But yeah, I think I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you think about, Yuri was the light heavyweight champ, and he was fighting really not Japanese people specifically, so Japanese fighters. So yeah, it makes sense on that one. And then, of course, the atomweight division, super atomweight division. Personally, I think it would be fun to see a fresh matchup, which is Ayaka versus Miyu Yamamoto. Of course, Kana Asakura earning her way back to, that top title shot, potentially the rematch with Ayaka, which would be fun. Now, I mean, the first fight wasn't very competitive, but we'll see. I like the division as is, of course. So looking forward to that, whatever happens there. All right, and his third question is, will there be any tournaments for this New Year's Eve show? Maybe another tough thing to make happen.
Yeah, I think tournament would be a tough one. I mean, even if something happens, it would probably be a 4-man tournament. We can't do anything as big in one event. But with everything planned out so far, I don't think we will need to do a tournament for New Year's Eve. I mean, tournament's always fun, so we can always add that. But is the amount of volume we have and the quality we have planned for New Year's Eve, I don't think a tournament would be necessary. We can probably save that for next year.
All right. That's exciting, of course. So, yes, thank you at Stevenson_902 for those ones. Good stuff there. And then we move on to at Fraser's Truon 1. Hopefully I'm getting that pronounced correctly. That's always the fun of doing community questions, is pronouncing the names. Right. So, all right. His first question is, when do you see the UFC doing an atomweight division? Okay, that's a very tough question. It's something that I've talked about, for years now. I really think that they dropped the ball by not opening an atomweight division. What was it, last December? Or no, maybe 2 Decembers ago, 2018, when Jin was the champion, like right when she became champion or after she won the rematch against Nina Grusander. That was kind of the time, because of course they could essentially take the whole entire Invicta division if they wanted to and build off there. Of course, over in RIZIN, the very best tippy-top atomweights over there and everything, and then just in Asia in general. That would have been the perfect time now. They didn't do it. Zapatel is the champion now. That could be another good person to start it, but I don't know. I just feel like the talent is way too spread out across the world for them to start up a good enough division. At least I wouldn't want them to, unless they could make it feasible. But then it would be taken away from the other organizations as well. So I don't know. They don't seem very interested, obviously. That's just how I feel about it. But any thoughts on that potential, Shingo?
Yeah, I think it's not going to happen. I can probably just lay it out. It's probably not going to happen. The reason is that when you look at the current strawweight division, right? I don't want to sound racist or anything, but it's hard. It's just the lighter weight classes. It's very hard to find like the Caucasians of that size. like you don't really get the variety of a global competition, because if you do all straw weights or like atom weights, you're going to have a lot of Asians, Brazilians. There's going to be very, very few Americans, most likely. And it's I think it's just that contrast, right? It's the balance will be off, I think, for the UFC to do a straw atomweight division.
Yeah, especially in terms of, like promoting those fighters, and if they're not speaking English, primarily, right?
Correct. It's just hard. It's just hard to promote that division and certain fighters with the fighters they're gonna have.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I don't want to sound like a racist or anything, but it's just like the nationality is going to, it's...
No, I hear you. I mean, they would need to rely on, some of those straw weights dropping down, like Tisha Torres, maybe Carla Esparza has mentioned it. There would be people that would help add to the division, which I should have mentioned, because that is something, I've talked about too. They would kind of have to force them to and hope that they would like become champion and stuff. There's some other fighters I'm leaving out there, but straw weights dropping down too would be essential for that to really make progress. And maybe they just don't feel like they've seen enough people mention that they want to go down. Like Carla's really been the biggest one that I've seen mention it, but she's doing just fine at straw weight too. So it's like, I don't know. It would be cool, but not necessary for them whatsoever.
Yeah, not necessary.
Yeah. All right. And his next question is, why do you think Sohee Ham was not successful in the UFC? And I mean, well, the easy answer to that is because she fought up a weight class at strawweight, and we've seen that she is, better suited for atom weight and below 115 pounds. But I mean, at the same time, I think people kind of just look at her record and go just off of that, like that stretch, the 4 fights she had in the UFC, and they just look at it and be like, oh, she lost 3 out of 4. When if you watch those fights, she should have went like 3-1. Actually, she kind of got robbed in at least one of those fights, and she was facing people who are at flyweight now. She was undersized in every single one of those fights. I mean, Joanne Calderwood, top flyweight; Beck Rawlings, not necessarily a top flyweight, but a flyweight; Courtney Casey, and then the other one was Danielle Taylor, I believe. So that's actually someone you could probably make atomweight too. But those are 3 very big opponents that she fought, and still arguably beat at least 2 of them, maybe. I mean, the Calderwood one was, pretty clear, but yeah, it's pretty cut and dry, I think, there. So
yeah, agreed.
So yeah, and then his final question. Thank you, Fraser. Do you think one belts look better than UFC belts? I mean, we kind of talked about what belts we like a couple weeks ago, just off air and everything. And do the one belts look better than the UFC belts? I mean, I've kind of grown to accept these new UFC belts that they have. At first, it was kind of like a little bit much, a little weird, just probably the change of it and everything. Like that classic look a lot. So, I mean, yeah, I'd probably give the edge slightly to one just because it's a little bit more what we're used to seeing, I guess. But I don't know. I think my favorite belt title, design of all time is probably Strike Forces. I like the WEC one as well. The RIZIN ones are cool because they're very uniquely shaped and all that kind of stuff too. A little bulky, but yeah. What are your thoughts on the belts, Shingo?
I don't really have any opinions on the belts.
Just whatever.
I could say that I like the old UFC belt better than the new one. I still can't get used to the new one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I like the UFC belt. I like the Strike Force WC belt. Heck, I like the King of the Cage belt.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think belts just kind of. Oh, the Invicta belt is pretty cool too. The red one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the RIZIN belt is way too big. That thing's huge.
Do you like the normal one? Do you like that one less than the light heavyweight Yuri one?
They're all good in their own ways.
Yeah.
I just wish that we have one design.
Yeah. Right.
The one that Mirko took home was pretty cool. The one with Cy Games Dragon belt, the Grand Prix belt.
No.
Hey, look it up. Yeah, Mirko Mirko's belt was definitely something special. His trophy and the belt. They had dragons on them.
Oh yeah, that thing is awesome. I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
very cool one.
That was definitely very unique for a MMA promotion.
Yeah, it looks very like kickboxing-ish or, something like that. But yeah, that thing's super cool. So yeah, that might be my automatic favorite. That one is really cool. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, there's only one in the world.
Oh, there we go. Of course, perfect guy to have it there.
Yeah.
We'll move on from belt talk. Thank you at Fraser Strew on one. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Correct me if I'm wrong in the DMs, of course, sir. All right, and last question is coming from our good friend of the show, Luke at Lukowitz Words. Question for me first. Which division would I like to see RIZIN heavily pursue next in the way they built men's bantamweight and women's super atomweight? I mean, I think that, the obvious choices would maybe be some of the heavier weight classes like welterweight or light heavyweight. Yeah, just any kind of the heavier weight classes, just because, we all know about the lighter ones are pretty loaded and stacked. So, yeah, I don't know if I would have one specifically I'd pick. There's probably more options to choose from at welterweight. So in that case, in terms of easy to building and how quickly we could see depth be added to that one, I guess I would say welterweight then. So yeah, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think, how RIZIN or like Japanese MMA has typically done their division building is based off of Japanese a group of Japanese fighters, right? And then we surround that, we make the division bigger with bringing in international fighters and whatnot. So I've always been saying that, like, the very early K1 days, right? K1 days back in like 1997, 98, 98, they didn't have any Japanese fighters. They had, the Peter Ertz, Mike Bernardo, Andy Hug, Sam Greco. They continued to bring into the same guys, all international fighters, doesn't have to be Japanese fighters, but they were big and strong and they went at it, right? So they would continue to bring in these guys repeatedly and use them every single time to a point where the Japanese fans just kind of know them now, right? So they kind of, the Japanese fans just automatically accept them and become instant fans. So, it would be great to do that with RIZIN, but it's just still very Japanese, heavy promoted thing. So my thing is that when you mentioned welterweight, so who do we have at welterweight? What Japanese fighters do we have at welterweight? Are they marketable enough to develop a division around them where the fights will be competitive enough? Is their fight style good enough, exciting enough to put in the effort to build the division, right? So all those aspects come in, and we were able to do a lightweight Grand Prix, but when you look at the Japanese talent we have at welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, it's just so hard to commit at the moment. Mm-hmm. So it would be nice to try, and like I said, if we can bring in like badass international fighters and continue to use it, win or lose, and have them perform, that would be ideal. That would be a great way to build a heavyweight division, a light heavyweight division, middleweight division, but without Japanese fighters. Because when you look at the K1 fights back in the day, like Musashi got his ass kicked every time, right?
Yeah.
But all these K1 fighters are now legends. It's because they fought so many times, multiple times, brought in and marketed properly. So everybody knows Peter Ertz, Ernesto Hoost, Jerome LeBanner, Mike Bernardo, Sam Greco, Andy Hug. Like, the list goes on and on. Yeah. And I think that's a proper way to build an international fighter over here in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue with results. So,
yeah.
Is how it is. So, yes, thank you for that first question, Luke. And then he has one final one here for us. Of course, plenty of good questions here today. Question for Shingo. Are there any updates on the return of Takaki Soya and MMA debut of Ren Hiramoto. So I have no comments whatsoever on this.
Soya's still suffering a bad. He's just got a really bad back. He's working through it. I think he's doing rehab right now. We've talked about him coming back on New Year's Eve, but I don't think he's going to make it. I think his return is probably going to be next year, which would be interesting because we had a discussion of bringing back, whether the flyweight division or the bantamweight division, if we're going to stick with the bantamweight, or if we're going to, start putting emphasis on the flyweights. So if we do a flyweight division, we might bring in Soya back in the flyweight division instead of the bantamweight division. So, that would be definitely be an interesting time to come back. Ren Hiramoto, probably New Year's Eve, maybe not. But he's been saying that he wants to focus on MMA now. So regardless of when, the next time we see him fight in the ring, it will be an MMA fight.
All right. Exciting news there. Look forward to seeing that. And yeah, that is all we got for the community questions this week. Whole bunch of them, you guys, or not this week, this episode. But yeah, thank you, of course, to at Lukuwid's Words, at Fraser's True on One there, and at Stevenson_902 for all the good questions. And yeah, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in as always. Another great episode here, a very special episode. Just that something about that Tomo Maesawa chat, just really, it felt special to me because, getting to speak with her before, or after the retirement and everything, made this feel like a really important episode, at least for me, is getting to, help get out her story and everything like that. So thanks for tuning in for you guys, and hope you enjoyed, and hope you enjoy RIZIN 25 coming up here November 21st, right? 21st, right? So yes. Yeah, and then until next time, we will see you then. Don't forget to follow, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and support the show. You guys means the world, and we'll leave you with that. Until next time.